they give them to me at my office to give out to IC men,
Mm-hmm.
and I brought those on.
Yeah. Okay. Now, where did you start out?
Here at Jackson. I was 17. But I worked in just about every department. I didn't work but about a month. I got cut off. And Dad was a good friend of Jack Warple, who was the head of the signal department.
Yeah.
And I went up to Tams and stayed on the camp cars and helped lay that CTC from Cairo to Murfreesboro.
Okay. Yeah.
And stayed up there a couple of months. And come back and worked a little while, and then I was drafted. I left in 44, latter part of 43.
Okay.
And come back in 46.
Yeah.
In the Navy.
Yeah.
And they started phasing steam engines out then.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
And I did everything they called me for. Work as agent, operator, whatever. I'd take it.
Yeah.
And I did pretty well. Finally, it got so bad. I got a job out of Aluminum Forge when they came here. Tommy Smith, I don't know if you ever heard of him or not. He was a personnel manager out there. But he and I were in the Navy together. That's how I got on somewhere else.
Okay.
We were in the high school band together.
Was George's father already working when you started? I mean, you worked with his father, right?
Oh, yeah. They on this seniority list. He and my dad, he was right close to my dad, was a little older than he was, seniority. And they worked towns next to each other. Dad was at Saltella and George was at Guntown. That was back during the Depression when they was lucky to have a job.
Are you looking for his name? What does this list have on it? I know you said it's a seniority list. Is it? What was your father's name?
Talking about mine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, G.W. Googe Jr. Here's my aunt. See her over here.
Yeah, Louise.
Aunt Lou is Miss Charlotte Louise Googe.
Ryan.
Golly, date of birth 7/15/06.
Your granddad was a doctor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
A what?
Medical doctor.
Oh, okay.
She entered service 12/18/41, right when the war was getting going there.
What did she do there?
She was an operator, an agent.
Agent operator.
Mm-hmm.
Did they allow women to be engineers?
I don't think so.
Not then.
I wouldn't think so either.
I don't
just
think
didn't know.
that started until after GM&O was already gone. I don't think that got going.
But now, I would think was his father in before you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got to know his dad real well. He came to Jackson as chief dispatcher, and he moved on up to, what do you call it? He had to do...
Diesel expediter.
Yeah. He knew wherever diesel on the railroad was. He had to have somebody know where they're at all the time, or they'd all bunch up in one place.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
so he was the equivalent of a dispatcher, except it was for motive.
Diesel dispatcher, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, he kept the motive power spread out.
But he was a kind of a link between the mechanical department and the transportation department, and all that, because he'd be the one to decide when to pull it for testing or repairs or maintenance or whatever, what train to put it on, all that sort of thing.
All right. And when did he retire?
let's see, 1975.
Yeah, I think it's on this thing.
And you retired in the early 80s, though, right, Ben? 86, was it?
86.
But the
Or
merger.
December 86, you might say 87.
Okay.
I wouldn't have retired, but I had a bad eye. I got a hot cinder in my eye, you know, in Columbus, Kentucky, on a steam engine. And they give me trouble over the years. And the IC was real strict on me wearing a contact lens. And that, I had to wear a contact in it. And after the merger, I worked at Memphis Run out of here for a good long while. I was scared to death all the time they'd catch me. And they offered me $42,000 to retire at 62. And I said, I better let well enough alone. I better take it. Because I got a pretty good pension.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
What do you remember about George's father?
Oh my goodness, I lived on Starter Street. I'd go all during the night. He used to fuss at me. I jumped that extra board when I was just a kid. You could 6-day clause a job, and anybody could. And a lot of times he'd tell me, Ben, you better not run around these people. I said, I'm gonna do it too. But we became good friends. He came over to my house when I lived on the corner of Starter and Lee. And I got a television, but I didn't have enough money to get an antenna and all. He said, I'll come and fix you up. And he fixed some coat hangers. And I could get Memphis.
That was it? Did
And
Jackson have a station
that's
then?
where George gets his smarts from your dad. I mean, he was sharp.
Oh, yeah,
That's
he
what he
was.
was. But yeah, I knew him real well.
But you didn't, so to say, work with him, being y'all were in two different parts of the
You'd say
railroad.
Moore worked for him because he, for a long time, he'd call the crews there, or he'd set up a crew for a train. That's when he was upstairs, the old Union Station.
Yeah.
Didn't he eventually go down to Island and have an office down
yeah.
there? I thought-
In 58 is when he moved down there.
Now, did you ever meet Mr. Ben when you
Yeah.
were young?
Well, I probably did. Now, I remember
Well,
you mostly when I worked on the railroad in the 70s.
He was going to school and he worked as an operator down at Island. I saw him
Right.
several times.
Yeah, that's when I
I'd be
remember
going
you.
out on a run.
I mean, I'd heard
Yeah,
of you.
yeah.
You know, he'd mentioned, I think you were probably a train master up in Illinois by the time I was coming up and remembering stuff
Yeah,
before I,
66 when I accepted that job.
Yeah.
Talking about the director special, I was working on it and come out of Oklahoma on director special. And we headed through Glen. That's a passing track just the other side of Tupelo. Just about. And when I lined the switch up, we was riding the coach ahead of Mr. Brock's car. And he was on the back end on the observation platform. And he said, come here, kid, get on right here. And I had been working that switch engine at Tupelo. I knew all those industries. And he started asking me questions. And supercyclers, Dave Bright, how many cars they got, and, you know, everything. And I guess I made an impression. Because he asked me if I'd be interested in a job in the official capacity. And I said, well, I'd be interested in bettering myself, Mr. Brock. Well, it was about a month. Mr. Bodie, the vice president, gentleman, called me and asked me to come to Mobile. And they offered me a yardmaster job. I think it was in Meridian. And I told him, I said, Mr. Bodie, I don't want to be confined to a yard. I wouldn't. I'd like to be a train master. But he said, oh, you won't start at the top, you know. So after that, he said, well, we'll be in touch with you. And we'll pay you expenses for coming down here. Okay.
Did you expect not to hear from him again?
Huh?
Did you expect not to hear from him
I
again?
didn't think I'd hear anything else. And Sammy Thompson was superintendent at Murfreesboro. And I had worked with Sammy before he was appointed superintendent on the South Local, him and Ralph Reeder. And I knew his voice when he called me. He said, "Harry Beard, you want to be my train master?" I said, "If I was going to be a train master, I'd like to be yours, Sammy." He said, "Mr. Thompson to you," like big high interview. I said, he said, "I want you in my office in the morning, 9 o'clock. And I said, "Man, I stand to get out on 31. I can't miss my run. I get out in the morning on 31 South." He said, "Come on up here, boy. You don't have to worry about that. You get paid for what your run makes." So I went up there to see him. We were good friends a short time that he lived. He died in a year after I went up there.
My goodness.
He had bad cancer, his liver. And then Mr. Kelly was superintendent here at Jackson.
I remember him.
They just extended his territory. And didn't appoint anybody superintendent up there. And Mr. Kelly was one of the nicest men I ever knew. He just kind of turned it over to me up there. Mr. Biller was the chief dispatcher up there. He and I never did get along too well. Charlie Richardson was a dispatcher and kind of assisted him when his days off. He worked the chief's position. And he had wanted Charlie to have that position as train master up there. And they really pushed for it. And they kind of give me a hard way to go. I stayed with him for 8 years. But after the merger, and I resigned coming in. But I could make more money on those Memphis runs than I could up there as train master. The IC never did give me a raise. I worked with him 2 years. And running day and night, I said, "Shoot, man."
What was the Memphis run you said you're talking about?
MF Jackson to Fulton to Memphis. 200 miles. And back in a day off. And they paid good money. They got over $4,000 a month.
What were you pulling? What were you hauling doing that?
Or just dead freight. But then they put on a run that I could hold out of Memphis to Centralia. And I jumped on it because it was a pig run. And it was about 300 miles. And it was really paying off. I was on that when I retired. But they said I'd have to come back to my original seniority district to get the payoff. So I come back to Jackson and jumped on that Corinth turn. Counts, Pupwood. We took a load every day and turn around, come back to Jackson. I took it for a week and then retired.
And that was what year?
In 86.
86, okay.
Or December 86.
Wow. I wasn't even in kindergarten then.
Well, we got kids working out there at the mall now. I bought a place out in the country and built me a lake and a cabin out there. Had 32 acres. I had everything I wanted. There wasn't anything to me but to build a home out there and sell a place on Russell Road. And finally, my wife, Josephine, give in. She said, "Oh, that's what you want." And she never was happy out there. So we finally sold that and moved back here. But if I would have kept that property and stayed on Russell Road, we had a nice little home just off the skyline there on that bank there. And I'd still have that property out there. Well, I've got 15 acres and trailers I rent out there, but I sold 32 acres.
Are you talking about on 412?
Yeah.
That's where you used to live, in a house up there?
Of Blue Goose.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I built a home.
And she didn't like living that far out from Jackson?
She hated it.
So George, what was